Electric Avenue, and then we'll take it higher.
All right, everyone, welcome back. You are watching Electric Avenue. This is episode number 20. This is the July 2024 wrap up, and this is Manish Jain or Mr. Jain. And as usual, we got 4 topics we're going to cover. We're going to go through the monthly registration numbers for July in India, talk about any recent EV news and launches, car spotting as usual, and then the 4th topic is the deep dive. And today's deep dive is going to be about all the other Chinese brands that are currently in India. In the last episode, episode number 19, I talked about BYD in India, and surprised to find out that many people didn't realize there are Chinese cars already available in India and from several brands. So I talked about BYD in the last episode, and today I'm going to talk about the other 3 brands that are currently selling cars in India and talk about who is the actual owner and the names that you would think about that are not actually Chinese owned. And that's the funny thing, is these are brands that are story brands from many years ago, and they've been kind of rebought, repurposed, repackaged, and being sold by Chinese car companies. So that's what we're going to talk about in the deep dive for part number 4. Anyways, as usual, let's just jump into the numbers for section number 1. All right, so here are the numbers. So here we have got July 2024. Right here is the column for July 2024, and I want you to keep track of this number here. At the bottom is we've sold about 7,500 EVs in India. And as usual, Tata Motors is at the top. Then you've got MG, M&M, BYD at 342. So that's a big pop. I think that the continued selling of the Atto 3 and their BYD Seal, which is doing fantastically well. Then you've got Citroen, then you got BMW, Hyundai, Volvo, Mercedes, Audi's at 17. I couldn't get the numbers for Kia, Porsche, and Jaguar, but I think collectively all of them is probably no more than probably 40, 50 vehicles. But total, we got about 7,500 vehicles. I wanted you to keep track of that because I'm also going to compare that to the Chinese car market. But real quick, I just wanted to kind of show you, this is a percentage market share of who owns what. So, you look at the top 2 brands of Tata and MG, and they own, as you can see here, around 83% of the market. So when you take the top 3, actually, the top 3 brands collectively have probably a huge number as far as, close to 90% of the overall market. 80%, I think, is the number. Probably closer to 90 if I think about it. But yeah, so, that's, pretty typical of, the top market controlled by, several key players, and that's what's playing out here. So, yeah, like I said, the top 3 right here. But what I really want to talk about is, we looked at that number, we said 7,500. If I had to look at, this is for China, and these are just July, and they call these the battery electric vehicles. These are not hybrids, these are pure electric cars. And if you look at the number 1 model is a Tesla Model Y at 41,000 units. So what's interesting is if we have to go down all the way to find any car that's selling about 7,500 units, that's right around here between 16 and 17. There is a brand that sells just the same number of cars that we sell in an entire month in India, and that is the ID3, and then this one, the Bengal. But if you look at the top, 2, 3 models, they're BYD, they're Tesla and BYD. So the top 4 are, Tesla, BYD, Tesla, BYD. They kind of go back and forth. So, you can see the size of the market in China is way bigger than what we have here in India. And that's part of that is because the government of China has been really spearheading this business, putting in lots of money, putting money into the battery technology, into the manufacturing process. And surprisingly, they've allowed other competitors like Tesla to set up factories. And I think part of that is because they let Tesla set up a factory in China, and then they're kind of learning from that as well. So now that whatever they've learned from the building of that factory, they can build other factories of their own. So that's a very smart move on the government of, the Chinese government's roadmap. And I'm hoping we can do more and more of that here in India as well, and try to get a lot of the know-how and knowledge from other countries. But also, we also have a lot of know-how and knowledge in this country, and start using that as well. So that's kind of a look at the numbers for July 2024 in India. And also, as I said, special this month was for China as well. All right, the next section is EV news. One thing I should have mentioned is I'm actually a little sick, so I am not 100%, but as they say, the show must go on. So I had to get this episode out there, so I may not have the full energy that I usually do, and I sound sick as a dog. But anyways, back to the EV news. There's only one piece of news this month, and that is BYD has released a new model, a new variant of their Atto 3. So the Atto 3 has been around for a while, but they got a new variant, and that is called the Dynamic. So that Dynamic is priced around 25 lakhs, and it's got a smaller battery pack. It's got almost a 50 kilowatt hour battery pack versus what they had been selling before, which is the Premium and the Superior. So there's a price difference between the Dynamic and Premium of about 5 lakhs, and that is pretty much only attributed to the battery pack. So that's one of the main things is the difference. Other differences is, I believe, some of the other smart features like ADAS and things like that are not in the Dynamic. So it's a pretty dumbed down version of the car. But at 25 lakhs, it's not a bad deal for a BYD Atto 3. I think it's a great, if you're looking at getting something that's bigger than a Nexon. And of course, the Curve.ev is coming very soon. And so this kind of competes in that same price range and size as far as battery pack is concerned. So that's kind of the news. Like I said, there's not much. It was only that one piece of information. And hopefully next month we get a lot more information. We'll have news around the new Tata Curve EV will be released. Also a bunch of new releases from Ola. So of course they don't have any cars, but they have got a whole range of new motorcycles coming out, and I'm sure they're going to talk a little bit about their new battery packs, their 4680s, and a bunch of other things that hopefully we can talk about in next month, the August update. Anyways, that's a wrap for the news. All right, so we are at EV car spotting, and it's finally happened where it is a release of this podcast, and I don't actually have a picture of a car that I've personally seen. So this is the new Lotus Electra R that has been doing the rounds. So actually, I saw it out of the corner of my eye. It's yellow, so it's very noticeable, but I wasn't able to take a picture of it and get a really good look at it. But this is one, and this is on dealer registration temporary tag plates. But this model was the one that I had seen in Bombay, and is doing the rounds. They're kind of giving it to customers, preferred customers, people that are interested in this SUV. So this is the first SUV from Lotus. This is the R variant. So this variant on road will be about 3.1 crore. It's got a 112 kilowatt hour battery pack, so pretty sizable. It's double of my EV6 and double of many of the cars that are in that price range of the EV6. Does 0 to 100 in about under 3 seconds, so 2.9, which is really fast. 985 Newton meters of torque. So the question is this a car something that I would personally get? The truth is Lotus does not have a real strong dealer network. They're just setting it up as we speak. And this is going to be their halo car. But at 3 crore, that seems a bit spendy to me for a car of this stature. I really am not sure if you want to be one of the first to own it in the country, I can see why people would get it. But honestly, I'd probably throw that 3 crores on something else, even if it's a non-electric. But definitely this one, it's kind of a pass, I think. But I'd have to actually test drive it to see how awesome the car is. But that's EV car spotting. So as I say, I kind of cheated this month. I didn't really have a picture of it. But like I said, I did see it out of the corner of my eye. But it does look very nice from the rear. It looks really amazing. Anyways, that's a wrap on the EV car spotting. All right, we are at the very end. This is the deep dive. As I had mentioned, this is around other Chinese EVs in India. Like I said, the last episode I talked about BYD, and there's a huge misconception around Chinese cars available in India. They've been around for many years. It's just that they've been sold under brands that people don't normally associate with Chinese car companies. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Before we get to that, though, I want to talk about this infographic, which talks about the 5 largest companies that sell battery electric vehicles. So at number 1, no surprise, is Tesla. Number 2 is BYD out of China. Number 3 is Geely Volvo, also out of China. Number 4, Volkswagen, of course, from Germany. And number 5, SAIC, another Chinese company. So today we're going to talk about number 3 and 5 because they sell a variety of vehicles under those car brands. I mean, those are the conglomerate names, but you'll know the name brands when we get to them. So the first one we're going to talk about is MG Motor. So it's a very old brand, British brand. It's been around for many years, started in 1924, been through a lot of ups and downs, and finally it has been bought over by SAIC, which is a Chinese car company. I think it's the 3rd or 2nd largest car company in China. So they bought the brand and they've moved to markets like India and kind of still keep the same storied brand of MG Motor being a British brand. And so in India, they've been selling the MG ZS EV, the MG Comet for, quite some time. And they're going to be coming out with the 3rd model very soon. But MG has tied up with JSW in India. So now it'll be known, I think, as JSW MG Motor going forward. And so the Jindals have said that they're going to launch 3-4 additional EVs in the market and really kind of throw all their might, their marketing power, their muscle power, their connections in the government to kind of really get this going and really make EV manufacturing a real thing in the country, and take a lot of the knowledge from MG and SAIC and build out the plants here in India. So that's the first brand. Second brand is Volvo, which is of course a typical Swedish brand that everyone associates it to for safety, but it was bought over by Geely Holdings. And I know there's a lot of misconceptions about Volvo cars. If you actually walk into the dealership here in India, they will tell you it's no longer owned by Geely. It's owned through some very complex corporate structure, and then they talk about how it's actually listed on the NASDAQ Stockholm Exchange, all kinds of stuff. But the truth of the matter is, in the end, it is actually owned by Geely, and they may have whatever complicated, convoluted structure, but the end company is Chinese. So the car that you're buying still has some connection to China. Where your data is going is still an unknown. I'm sure they'll tell you it goes to the nearest data center in the country, but who knows what. But that is the second car company that we're covering today that is being sold in India and is a Chinese car, but people don't think it's a Chinese car. And the third one is the one that I just talked about in the car spotting. This is the Lotus Eletre. But Lotus, again, it is a British car company known for its racing, known for its F1. It's gone through a lot of ups and downs, but it's also owned by Geely as well. And it was owned by several other companies in the past. I think there was if I'm not mistaken, I think Proton, which was based in somewhere in Southeast Asia. They owned it for a while, but in the end, Geely ended up buying it. So Geely owns several other brands that we're not going to cover, but Lotus is the third brand that is a Chinese car company that is owned by a Chinese company. But when you look at the name, whether it's Lotus, Volvo, or MG, they've all got their own histories, but in the end, it's owned by a Chinese car company. So that's a wrap on the deep dive for other Chinese EVs that are available in India. Take care, and I will see you next time on Electric Avenue.
Oh no, we're gonna rock down to Electric Avenue. And then